Good morning and welcome to the Thursday, October 19th meeting of the Board of County Commissioners. I am calling this meeting to order, and we begin each of our meetings with an invocation. Today, Commissioner Williams will be providing our invocation. Please join us if you would like.
We ask you to please bless the people of the world and our national leadership, that they can be able to provide the support they need and make good decisions. And please bless our department heads, that we may be able to learn more about the budget and learn more about the needs of the county. And this we say in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
And Commissioner Vander Werf, would you please lead us in the pledge? Item number 3.
Item number 3 is staff emergency items, and I'm unaware of any staff emergency items today.
Item number 4.
Item number 4 is changes, postponements, and notice of the next meeting. I'm unaware of any changes to today's agenda, and our next meeting will be Tuesday, October 24th, 2023 at 9 a.m.
Item number 5.
Item number 5 is comments by elected officials and commissioner liaison reports.
Are there any countywide elected officials online? Okay. Does anybody have any comments this morning? Okay. Item number 6.
Item number 6 is community service organization reports, and there are none.
Item 7.
Item number 7 is public comment on items not scheduled on the agenda. This is the public's opportunity to speak on an item that is not on today's agenda. And Madam Chair, I didn't see anyone sign in prior to the meeting.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone wishing to speak on any item not on today's agenda in the audience and online? Hearing none, item number 8.
Item number 8 is department and committee reports and non-action items. 8A, 2024, budget hearing number 2, budget reports and department offices critical needs presentations. Nikki Simmons, Chief Financial Officer.
Good morning, Commissioners. Nikki Simmons, Chief Financial Officer. We are here this morning to kick off the first of 2 sessions for our critical need presentations. These are where you will hear from your departments and offices regarding the needs that they have that are either in or didn't make it into the preliminary balanced budget. You have a tentative schedule in front of you for department presentations. We're going to go a little out of order as we're getting kicked off a little earlier than we planned. Usually y'all take more time for your commissioner comments. So today you're going to be hearing from your assessor's office, your justice services department, Department of Public Works, Facilities and Strategic Infrastructure, Community Services, the Clerk and Recorder's Office, as well as Human Resources. And each of those departments and offices will explain why they're asking for what they're asking for in the 2024 balanced budget. To give a little bit of an update, since you last heard from me on the budget on October 3rd, it's been a little over 2 weeks, or it's been, a little over 2 weeks since then. We have received 1 more month of sales tax in. That month was down a little over 3%, leaving this year to date down 1.97%. And so as we continue through the budget process, we're still in a similar place to where we forecasted, so I'm still comfortable proposing what was in the preliminary balanced budget. And at this point, no changes are requested from your budget team. And so with that, if there aren't any more questions for me, I will pass it on. We're going to have, looking around, making sure no one else is here, our Director of Community Services, Todd Martz, is going to give his presentation on his budget requests.
Mr. Martz, thanks for being ready and flexible, ready to pivot here.
Thank you, Commissioners. Todd Martz, Executive Director for Parks and Community Services. And I appreciate the opportunity to present and that saying about early bird gets the worm. I'm glad I get to go first. I really can't drag it out too long though, Nikki, so I'll take as long as I can, but I don't know. So here's our presentation for this year, and the strategic plan. I got to say, I'm very excited to be part of this, the new strategic plan and how it's going. Just to touch on some of the things that we're working on, very much involved in the infrastructure, completing the infrastructure plan, and how do we move that into our capital improvements. And so fully anticipate that'll be a bigger part of what we present down the road. But my department's also involved in Objective 2 with service quality. We're working with our park operations team, similar to what Public Works did, to make sure there's opportunities to create career growth. And Objective 3 is always something that we, as a front-facing agency and department, we always are working on community trust. One example of that is we track customer service, and we try to maintain a 90%, and we always get above that. So we're doing that. And Objective 4, health and safety. We absolutely are expanding our recreational programs and promoting healthy lifestyles. These are some of our indicators. I won't go through all of them. I think you're familiar with a lot of them. The county park volunteer hours, I think, is significant, and that takes work. You know, the volunteers do want to come and help you, but we do have to also go out and reach out to them and make sure that it's a rewarding experience for them and a win for us. You know about the county parks fundraising and the county fair. Both of those have done extremely well. And household hazardous waste, we've got some changes coming up in 24 that I can touch on. Here's some of the highlights that we're looking at for 2024. We're going to improve accessibility all over the park system, but we're going to focus in on Fountain Creek Nature Center, making sure that everyone has access to it. We're going to expand and improve our household hazardous waste program. We know that there's a growing community and a growing need for this, and so we're going to do our part there. Ute Pass Trail, Fox Run Nature Center capital campaign I've already touched on. We're initiating the 2023 storm damage repairs. That's going to be a big job, multi-year, but we're going to be starting that this year. Constructing trails in the Pineries, completing Homestead Ranch Regional Park improvements this year. Expanding our trail ability. As soon as we have a facility in Fox Run, I'll be putting another terrain hopper up in Fox Run. And expanding program accessibility, again, will be a real focus of ours. So our critical need this year, and some of the justification, as we all know, prices are going up, and also community needs are expanding. So our department has an urgent need for contracted services, and we are really trying to target this because we feel this is a responsible way to address this, and it's also something that we can meet the needs, but if we can't do it year after year, this is something that we could cut. But contracted services we're looking at right now, playground repair, playground maintenance, public water system testing. We have a lot of that in our park system, and the prices are rising. Portable restrooms and janitorial service. And we're also doing a lot of forestry mitigation, which you gave us money last year for. We've spent that, and we're going to do more mitigation this year. Strategic Objective 2 is where we're going to meet, improving service quality, and Objective 3, increasing community trust. I think this critical need really addresses both of those. Again, with the significant increase in park and trail users, there's a contractual increase to adapt to these customer service needs. Sorry, I'm talking really loud. Here's our base budget and critical needs. So park administration at 544, and I guess I want to address the third-party funding that we do get. And so you can see our third-party funding is about $3.5 million, which I think is a fiscally responsible way for us to run our department. And so we're looking at $3.5 million in third-party funding. And the general fund base budget right now proposed is about 4.7 for a total budget of $8 million, and you can kind of see the highlights of where we get those third-party funds. So here's our base budget and our critical need. The $100,000 would go into park administration for contractual services. The remainder of our budget would remain the same at the base. That's what I got.
Could you go back one slide, please?
Sure. Mm.
I have a question. So
Yes.
on environmental services, that includes the household hazardous waste facility, which is run under a separate budget, am I right?
Correct. Yep. So you
Okay.
can see on here, it's got the environmental service at 1.2, third party. So that's their contribution from the household hazardous waste. And then the general fund support is the 364.
And when we're expanding their services, are we going to do a second facility or just do more hours, times, days?
So a couple things we're looking at right now, Commissioner. We're looking at reducing the wait times. We're thinking about getting rid of the reservations, so people are more of a drop-in. We're also expanding. There's smaller communities around here that need some support, and so we're looking at how do we reach out and help them. And then there's also, you'll know more of this about this than I will. There's a small business need for recycling, and so we're looking at helping them out incrementally. So,
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Vanderwerf.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So Ken, maybe a couple of questions. The first one is kind of a broader budget question. So you have talked about doing some capital improvements. So how much of this budget revolves around capital improvements? You know, building, buying a terrain hopper, maybe making some other trails, as you've mentioned, maybe helping getting towards the gazebo and so forth. So how much of this is capital improvement?
So we're still working on our capital improvements with regional park fees and urban park fees funds. And so I don't have that answer for you today, Commissioner. But there is $750,000 that you have appropriated for many years, and now it's part of the budget that will go into capital improvements. And the majority of the general fund capital support this year will go into, or next year will go into Ute Pass Trail. The design is just incredibly expensive. It's very sensitive, and so 750 or 700,000 of that will go into Ute Pass Trail.
Okay. And then we've got Rainbow Falls. Is that still closed because of the rock fall?
So I don't know if you've seen it, but we're taking tours up there right now, and so we've got an opportunity to bring people up, and we're looking at other solutions for this spring. It is still closed. It's still unsafe to park cars there. So I was up there the other day, and there was a football-sized rock that had fallen down. So we've got a price. It's between $300,000 and $1 million to potentially correct it, but it's not going to solve the problem. So we're looking at long-term solutions of how do we get people into Rainbow Falls without having them park there.
Okay, thanks.
Sure.
Commissioner Williams.
On the Fox Run Nature Center capital campaign, do we have a website for that at all?
We do.
Okay, if you could send that to me.
We will.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Excellent.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you very much. Ms. Simmons, I would assume we are going a bit out of order at this time. So it looks like Mr. Maston with our Public Works Department.
Hey, good morning, Commissioners. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to present our additional funding requests for 2024. As my slides come up here, what you'll see as I go through the slides today, our primary emphasis this year is for additional funding is on MS4 compliance, and you'll see that as I go through my briefing, in addition to the funds that we're requesting for additional road work. Our strategic plan goals, you can see here from our objectives, the infrastructure, we've got 5 major areas: roadway, stormwater, facility, fleet, and park. Our primary emphasis is obviously roadway, stormwater, and fleet. But we are involved in facility and parks as well, working with facilities on the improvements for all of our facilities, our outlying yards, as well as working with parks as needed when engineering requirements, when they need engineering support. As we look through this, implement a life cycle management strategy. There's a few things that we'll be briefing you on here in the next few weeks before the end of the year on the things that we are implementing for 2024. And a lot of it has to do with asset management, everything from our vehicles, knowing every nut and bolt that's on a vehicle, every ounce of fluid, to include every single asset that we have in the county, to include every road sign, every bridge, every culvert, everything that we have, to have a more quantifiable information. So when we do come forward, it's not an emotionally based request. It's a factual based request. Very objective versus subjective. Our public facing asset scorecard, there's a few teams throughout the county right now that are doing the strategic planning, working on our strategic plan. The team that I am on with Stacy Quiddick, we are talking about a public facing information that talks about how we are doing as a county, but we're also doing it at the public works level as well to show people where we're at and how we're doing. And this ties into service quality and also community trust. That's the thing that there's a lot of emphasis that we're putting on right now. And I'll talk here in a moment too about the work that Jack Ladley is working on internally as far as our customer service, improving our customer service to our citizens. When we look at the analyzing the attrition rates, I may touch on this here in a little bit as well, but we've been working very closely with human resources. And I can tell you that they have been doing an extensive amount of work that has had significant changes for us in public works with career progression and also breaking down barriers that have been in place that prevented people from promoting and climbing through a career here in the county. So I want to give a shout out to Xavier Frost and his team and all the work that they've been doing for us, because without them, we wouldn't have been able to make this happen. Let's see our action plans. And again, that ties into the software and things that we'll brief you on as well. Community trust, again, here, objective 3, external and internal communication strategies, as well as resident satisfaction. Our external internal communications are something that we have to continually improve on, and that is reducing our response times as well as following up. And sometimes we don't have an answer, calling somebody and telling them that we don't have an answer is giving somebody an answer. It's just a matter of keeping our citizens informed on what we're doing. The stoplight chart here, our operating indicators, the average age of fleet, our target is 6 years. Remember, that is going to be a target to have an average life of our vehicles. And right now we're sitting at 8. And if you remember from a year or two ago, we were a few years above that. But the funding that we were able to receive over the last 2 years for vehicle replacements has helped us to bring that number down. But as far as our average age of fleet, we are not going to do fleet replacements just specifically off the age of the fleet. It's going to be based off of the information that we have now for asset management, knowing everything about every vehicle and knowing the true life cycle of that vehicle before we request replacement. We look for a 90% ready rate for all of our vehicles in the county, and we're currently sitting at 95%. The chip seal program, our target was 70 lane miles. We completed 70 lane miles. Now, we really want to put an emphasis on this with Tim Stickle, our new highway manager, and his team that did this. They were delayed 5 weeks as a result of the flooding, and they still got out there and got after it and got our chip sealing done for the year. Pavement overlay, I just lost my, there we go. Pavement overlay program, our target's 80 lane miles. We're sitting at 74.5, but based off the forecast, we should be fine at reaching our 80 miles before the end of the year. The roadway graveling program, our target was 30. We're sitting at 33 and we're not done. You can see that we did have requests in previous hearings for additional money for mag chloride and gravel, things like that. And that's so we can continue this while we have good weather to continue doing our roadway graveling program. Reclamation, you can see here they've been crushing it. Our target was 40 miles, or actually at 92 miles, and they're not done yet. They're still, as long as we got good weather, we're going to keep going, get as much done as we can. Now here's the emphasis that I talked about before, our customer service surveys. Our target is to be 80% in the good or excellent category. We're sitting at about 75%, and that has been a constant battle. I say not battle's the wrong word to use. It's been a constant issue for us to resolve, and that is being resolved. The CSRs, completing our citizen service requests within 90 days, our target is 70. We're currently sitting at 60. And right now there's being a complete audit of every citizen request that is in our system. Again, Jack Ladley's leading this with Megan Daniel, our new customer service manager, and we're going through every single thing, line by line by line. And there's now actually going to be periodic meetings to sit down, not only internally, but also with Rebecca for the information that she's getting as well, and make sure we're comparing and make sure we're targeting things like we need to get our citizen service requests taken care of.
Mr. Maston, before
ma'am.
you move on from that previous slide, I just want to commend the progress that has been made. We have seen a lot of red lights on a similar slide in the past, and kudos to your team for really moving the needle and in a measurable way. It's very impressive. And the other thing I wanted to point out is, I think great progress has also been made on the customer service point, but we also have to keep in mind that our response to customer service is, it's based on the people that have an issue and a complaint, and they're coming forward with an issue that they need fixed in the beginning. And so moving that needle on the way we measure the customer service survey that's also very impressive. So I know that you realize you've got another 5% that you'd like to get out of that, but also take huge kudos with that, because those are people that are self-reporting and they're starting from a complaint standpoint. And if you're able to make 75% of those satisfied by the time your crew is done, I think that's incredibly impressive. So don't beat yourself up too much on that 5%, but I look forward to seeing you reach your target.
Thank you. I appreciate it very much.
Commissioner Vanderwerf.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, I'll echo the comments of the chair. And I know you've got more charts here that have some interesting data, like I think chart 5, which talks about some of the wins, which are pretty awesome. You just haven't gotten to it yet, so I won't comment to those. But with regard to the the indicators and so forth, just a couple of comments, and maybe it's coming in a later chart, but I don't see anything about kind of how we're doing with bridges. Is that on one of the charts?
Yeah, it's specifically on bridges, it's not on there. That's because that's more kind of morphed into the overall, and this is, we did not provide any information specifically to bridges.
Okay. And I know that it's not necessarily kind of a budget hearing and so forth, but I know that we need to continue working on that clarity with regard to the Forest Service roads over on the west side in my district as to, what the documentation really says about who has taken management responsibility. A couple other comments I have. I think our app, Citizen Connect, is fantastic. But my goodness, every time I run into a citizen that wants to talk about roads, I recommend to them using Citizen Connect, and they've never heard of it. So I just wonder if there's maybe something useful, and this maybe is broader than just roads or DPW, but if there's something we could do maybe next year to increase the awareness of it, because I just have a lot of citizens that still don't know about it. And then I do have a question about the average age of the fleet. So your goal is 6 years, your actual is 8 years, but we were well above that, a couple of years ago. So I do need to ask the question, for whatever it's worth, and maybe it's just my own personal philosophy, 8 years sounds like a great target. Between 6 and 8 years, I don't know. It just seems to me like I think a lot of vehicles now can easily last 8 years, even if they're heavily used. And we've made a ton of strides going from a double-digit age to a single-digit age. So I just have to ask the question, why does this target 6 years instead of 8 years?
The 6 years, when you look at, again, it's the average with all the vehicles that we have. If we're front-loaded with newer vehicles that are between new and 4 to 5 years, that's going to offset the vehicles that are sitting at 18 and 20 years. But as far as the question goes, as far as that specific number, again, it's just simply a target. But going forward, our vehicle usage and vehicle replacement will be based off of the information that we get from our asset management system that tells us the actual true life cycle of that vehicle. Just because a vehicle hits 6 years does not mean it's ready to go to the boneyard, nor does 12 years mean it is. We need to look at the vehicle, how much we're spending on it. When it gets to the point where the vehicle is costing more to own than it is to replace, that's when we'll start replacing vehicles. But this is, the specific number 6, I believe, is a GSA number that they put out there for average lives of vehicles, and that's why that's there. Again, it's simply a target, but it's not it's not a make or break.
Okay. And I'll say, I know we haven't gotten to it yet, but since you mentioned it, I am just really excited about the asset management system because that's, you and I know, but I think many people here know, that's helping us really better manage the assets that we have, especially the road assets, the vehicle assets that we have. So, but I'll stand by and wait for you to actually get to that chart because I think it's the next chart.
All right, I'll get there. And Commissioner, if I can, just since we're on the topic, it's also that the new asset management is also going to allow us to look at vehicle usage. So if we have vehicles assigned to departments, but we look at the usage of that vehicle in that department, it's going to give us a much more objective way to look at distribution of vehicles and potentially reduce the requirement for the number of vehicles that we have simply based off of usage that a department's using. But I appreciate the interest in that because I can tell you Chris Reynolds, our fleet manager, is working extremely hard as well as all of his fleet technicians to bring this on board and make it as useful as possible.
Commissioner Geithner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So you've gotten a lot of feedback on this, but it is very positive to see. And I just want to commend you for being willing to put out numbers like this. It can be a little scary when you're setting goals and putting metrics in place, and that's part of goal setting and achievement, but it can be a scary thing to do to put those out there and not meet everyone the first time around. But I too think that these are tremendous numbers, and knowing that we're not stopping here. We're going to keep moving that forward. So really, really grateful for what we're seeing, that asset management system. I am so excited to see really, truly data-driven decisions. I know you came on board as a director pretty soon after I came here as well. So it's been really good to see the tremendous amount of progress that has happened in Public Works under your leadership. I do want to make a comment to Commissioner Vanderwerf's point on the Citizen Connect and how many of our citizens still do not know the best way to communicate problems, and the tracking system, which we've obviously implemented outside of, working in conjunction with Public Works, but with our new constituent services person, and really trying to track and make sure citizens are kept in the loop along the way. We still have, I think, some work to do there, but we are making huge strides compared to, I think where we were a couple of years ago. But I agree that Citizen Connect, and that's probably something to talk about a little bit with our communications department as well, is how do we continue to get that information out to our citizens? Because I agree, it is truly, there are a lot of people who do not know the best way to reach out. And of course, they can also do that through our website, so they don't have to download the Citizen Connect app. But I think that's a good thing for us to continue to talk about. But truly impressed with where we are going, the data that is actually going to be helping us make decisions, and being truly able to assess those, return on investments. When we are investing in a software or different technology, how that is helping us to become more efficient. So thank you for your work.
Thank you.
We're going to have Citizen Connect business cards. I had 50 road issues, and I was looking at my statistics in my commissioner district just last month. We had 50 road issues. So I think many of my citizens are finding it, or else they're calling and ending up, but we'll have to have business cards. We'll have to put that on the back of our business card.
I will take the business cards. We are in the process of producing business cards that have our customer service manager's information on it, and then Citizen Connect information on the back of that card. Because very often our highway folks, when they're out in the field, people will stop and talk to them, and now they will be equipped to be able to hand the cards out when they see people in public, and we'll all be carrying them. We're trying to funnel people through Megan Daniel, our customer service manager. She's doing great, and she's got a lot of great ideas. She's working very, very close with Rebecca, and I think between the two of them, we're going to crack this and do a lot better at it.
Excellent. Thank you for your patience.
Oh, sure.
Sorry to slow you down.
No, that's okay. I appreciate it.
All of it worth saying.
Appreciate the questions. Some of our other ones here, we talked to you about the asset management, work management program with common data architecture, the common data architecture so that things can talk to each other. And I want to talk about this as well here. Again, they're trying to run Department of Public Works like a profit and loss company. Are we making money? Are we not making money? That's what we need to know. And that's what this is going to allow us to do. Are we efficient with our time? If we have people working on a project, if it's a 5-hour project, but it took 10 hours to complete, using the software that we're going to use to track things, why is that? Is it training? Is it because we didn't have enough people, or is it someone that just took too long on a project? We're actually going to be able to start looking at this and increasing our efficiencies all across the board. Very happy with the flood response. Reopened 40 road and bridge closures within 30 days. And again, I want to shout out to Jack Ladley and the rest of the team. He's been working very closely with procurement as well, with Tracy and Becky over at procurement. We will get our FEMA money on this. I feel very, very confident we'll get reimbursed for this. And also on the flood response as well, El Paso County pretty much carried the state as far as our qualification for FEMA for the state of Colorado. Workforce development, we talked about career progression classifications. Just to give you a background on this, the way it used to be, you started as a maintenance worker 1, you could not become a maintenance worker 2 unless a position was vacated. And then you had to interview for the position. And sometimes we have some people that just didn't interview well, and they could be stuck as a maintenance worker 1 for years before they could finally get an opportunity to go to that next level. We eliminated that, and the career progression now is that once you meet all the qualifications of becoming a maintenance worker 2, you will become a maintenance worker 2. When you meet the qualifications to become a 3, you will become a 3. And I remember when we first started talking about this, there were a couple questions that were asked about, what are you going to do if you have a team that has all 3s on it? I'm like, well, it better be a Super Bowl winning team then, if we have all 3s on that team. And I can tell you that we've changed the entire culture of career progression. Now when people come in, we can actually sit down with them on day 1 and show them, here's where you are. If you want to be here, here's what you need to do. And that also puts the onus on the employee that if you want to become a 2 or become a 3, get with your team leads, get with your foreman, your superintendents, and get the training you need to go to that next level. And a lot of, when we were able to implement this, there were a lot of instantaneous promotions to 2s and 3s, and that really changed the dynamic of things that we're doing. And this is a sidebar on this, but this is one of my favorite stories, and I told Brett about this because the work that Brett has done with our pay, basically taking the handcuffs off of us as directors to be able to do the things we needed to do in our departments. And I did have an employee that I would say was one of our most vocal employees with his displeasure in the environment and lack of opportunity. He is now one of my happiest employees. And he came up to me one time and said, hey, is the county going to start paying for like divorce attorneys? And I'm like, divorce attorneys, what's going on? And he said, well, we don't have anything to complain about at work. So now we're just complaining about our wives. So he said, we're going to end up divorced. So, and I thought, to me, I mean, it was a good joke, but I thought, man, what a great comment that is. You know, again, to have a person that was really disgruntled, and now they see after the number of years they've had in the county, that now they have that opportunity to grow. And I thought it was pretty funny, but anyways, anyways, I thought it was funny. I thought it was a good indicator of turning the culture around. Let's see here. Again, the vehicle equipment telematics we talked about. Now, some opportunities that we are facing. Making our telematics public facing real time for snow and ice control. And we'll be briefing you on that at probably the first part of December, based off of when we can get into the informals. We do need to brief Brett first, and then we'll get on the informal. I think the first available is going to be in December. But we will show you how that will be public facing to where people can look and see where we've plowed, where the trucks are, based off of snowfall, when they can expect the truck to have to go back. The software there's going to be incredible for us for our snow removal. Integrating asset management process with countywide asset management. And this is a team that Jack's on, working close with Sunny and with facilities and there again, how do we get all of these things in a common data architecture to talk to each other, but working on that as well. And then the reimbursement for FEMA that I talked about already.
And also, yes, thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, back to that asset management. I mean, that is so much speaking my tune. I really like what it's doing. And, you know, that it's a little bit about my being an industrial engineer, specializing in operations research. This is what gives you the data so you can assess operations to determine why is this efficient? Why is this not efficient? Why did that take 10 hours when we thought it should take 5? And the other way around too. Why did it take 5 hours when we thought it should take 10? So that allows you to really actually just get to a more efficient kind of workflow, but one that is also realistic as far as, what the actual time is that the employees, need to do this job or that job. So that, I think there's going to be all kinds of great outcomes from that, and you're talking about some of them already. I think there's actually more than that coming with regard to that asset management tool. So I just think that that's great. And I'll just make one more point on the flood response. Thank you. Thank you to the team for getting all these roads reopened. No small feat. That was huge. That's a sign of our ability to flex and bend based on critical needs that come. And this, of course, was a natural disaster kind of thing. So I just want to say thanks for that. And by the way, the telematics also sounds really interesting. So thanks.
Commissioner Geithner.
Thank you. So I know that you know how excited I am about this real-time view of snow and ice control operations. Kevin and I talked about this, I guess it was last winter at some point, after talking to a lot of citizens and trying to help them understand, where the plow. It takes a lot of time for us to call and ask and do those things. So I'm excited about this because it is going to be a huge benefit in terms of customer service, that customers can truly just go online and take a look and find those things out. It's going to speed up the process. And I think it's also going to create some efficiencies internally, because rather than having all those phone calls back and forth and trying to figure all of that out, it's going to make it easier for us to answer those questions on our side, even when customers need that support and aren't just finding it on their own. So I am so excited about this. I checked out quite a few different counties who are using this outside of our state even, and just was really impressed with how technology can be used to help keep our citizens involved, help keep them safe so they know which roads to take. I'm really looking forward to seeing that roll out. So there's a big smile on my face on this one. I think it's just truly a fantastic leap forward in how we were providing service. But I also want to talk about that reimbursement for the flood response. It's amazing to me how many of our citizens don't even know that this happened. They don't even know that we had to declare a disaster because of these rains, because so many of those roads are in the rural areas that they just don't drive, they don't see. But what truly a tremendous impact that it had on our rural residents. And so really, I think it's important that we continue to make sure citizens know what happened during that time period, and they know that we're working to fix it. So, but really excited about that snow tracking.
Thank you. As sidebar from that, these are school districts. It's going to be a great asset for our school districts when they're trying to figure out how to get kids home or where they can pick kids up, or making the call on whether or not they're going to be delayed or canceled for the day. It'll be much more data driven. So thank you for the support on that.
Commissioner Williams.
My comment is really when it comes to priority 1, 2, and 3 roads. And I know, and probably with some of the customer service things, I've lived in the city of Colorado Springs for 30 years. They have never plowed priority 3 roads, ever. And so I think that when citizens call with complaints about their priority 3 road, asking why it hasn't been plowed yet, it could be something to point out that we do plow all of our roads, but if you're a priority 3, if you were a low road, that we may have to wait on, and you'd just have to wait a few extra days. And we also don't plow driveways. So I've had constituents call asking when their driveway would be plowed. No, we don't plow driveways if you live in the colder areas of Black Forest. So I think that's just something interesting to point out on a customer service perspective, that we run the county on such a low cost per citizen, and yet we don't plow, and we still plow those priority 3 roads during a snowstorm. So thank you.
Well, thank you. Right, looking into our challenges, the severe weather, which we talked about, the challenges with the floods. Another thing we're really struggling with right now is equipment build times. We've got some vehicles that have been ordered that we're not going to see until 2025 by the time they get built out. Parts availability, it's the same challenge there. Fuel material prices, I will tell you, Pete Wojcik, again, working with procurement to lock in fuel prices whenever we can and get the best deal that we can. But fuel, again, that is something that has proven to be a challenge. And you'll see that when I talk about how we used the money this year in 2023, how that affected that. Staffing challenges, they still remain, but I can tell you it's looking good. It wasn't like before where it just seemed like we just couldn't make any headway. We are making headway. We are slowly climbing towards 100%. Manning right now and having all the people that we need. Now, we do have people that are retiring. We do have some people that are leaving either due to military assignments or people leaving for sometimes, rarely do I have somebody leave for a better opportunity. It's usually something else that's causing them to go that's we just simply have no control over. But we are climbing towards 100% and we have less vacancies and we're doing much better at that. And as a sidebar for that too, I do have 3 individuals right now that are completing their GED, and when they complete, we're going to have that. That'll be a big deal. The first one we had, he left. The one when we first opened up the opportunities for people without high school diplomas, but the 3 that we have right now are highly motivated and they're getting after it. So I expect to see them graduated here. One hopefully by the end of the year, and the rest after the first of the year. In 2022, the allocation we had for calendar year 2022, these are the roads that we were able to accomplish with the additional funding that you authorized for us. We were able to complete 27.3 centerline miles of road with overlay, getting pavement on here. And let me see, I can't remember if it was 2022 or 2023, but we also were able to do Old Stage, get graveling on Old Stage, but I can't remember if that's in the next year or this year. I'll look at that here. But this is what we were able to do. In 2023, you can see that was reduced to 18.7 miles. But the reason for that was cost of goods, cost of materials, and then also the roads that we did here required a lot of base work that had to be done underneath the road to be able to build the road. But still 18 miles, sometimes people look and go 18 miles, well, get out and walk 18 miles. You'll see exactly how long 18 miles is. And I can tell you that our citizens that live on these roads are very appreciative. Our critical needs, getting into our critical needs. The first one here, acre facilities runoff, our control improvements of $2 million. We asked for $1.5 million last year, which we received. And what had happened is the retention pond that we have was built when the building was originally done and it was failing. And we needed the money to rebuild the pond. As a result of a survey that we had done on the property, we found that we had, there was runoff from equipment and materials that was not getting into the pond like it needed to. And that's why we need the additional $2 million to keep us in compliance with our MS4 permit and to actually do the pond in a way that will handle the entire acres facility. I wish we would have known this last year, but it is what it is. And the survey was done this year, and that's why we're asking for the additional $2 million for that one. Let's see. Critical need number 2, Dick's Circle, trash capture. I'm just going to go to the picture on this one. This is Dick's Circle down south. If you can see the cursor, this is the channel right here that leads into that. One of the problems we've had down here is that right here where the water goes into this underground drainage is that there were bars put on there that were vertical. And upstream from this, we have homeless camps. We have people that throw yard debris into the channel, and it would flow down to this in that vertical area. It would collect, create a dam. The water would come out and then flood this area, come across here to Libby Court, and then end up causing a lot of problems with the homes on Libby Court as well as the homes around the area here. And what we're asking for is the $750,000 to improve this. At a previous hearing, we've already got approval to have easements on the west side and the east side for us to get in there and do maintenance. And what we're going to put in there is basically, instead of vertical bars, it's going to be angled. So when the material hits the bars, it will actually rise and the water will continue to flow underneath, but it's also going to make it much easier for our crews to get down there and drag the trash out of there and keep the water flowing after an event occurs.
Commissioner Williams.
Can we also fence the ditch like it is up in Glen Eagle? We have a ditch that's fenced.
I don't have the answer to that question. I don't know what the cost would be to fence the ditch. I'll definitely look into it and find
Yeah,
out.
if you put a pretty high fence up around it, it becomes a lot harder to throw things over the fence. So, Thank you.
All right, thank you. Let's see, the justification here, the bottom line is it's a safety issue for our citizens is what it is. And it's also for our MS4, again, the MS4 compliance to make sure that water's going where it needs to go. That's the nutshell version of this slide. Let's see here. Not sure this is going the right way here. Big circle. All right, number 3, we originally asked for $1 million, but realized we did not have enough money to support 2 projects. This project is $500,000, and this is Hampton South, which is just north of Fort Carson. And I will show you the picture here. This right here in the circle is where this area has flooding problems. And it's hard to tell on the slide, but right here where the cursor's going, that's the drainage canal that leads into this. And it's the same problem that we have here is water comes up over top of this and then floods this area. This project will require curb, gutter, culvert work, overlay, pavement to repair the problem that we have here. The other project that we could ask for, just for reference, is Calle Corvo off of Highway 115, and that requires culvert work as well. And that's just more drainage issue down there to make sure the water's going where it's supposed to go. And then number 4, the illicit discharge abatement program. This is very similar to what's over at Planning Community Development when they have a code enforcement issue with trash or anything on a piece of property. By starting with $100,000, what this allows us to do is the normal legal process can take 90 to 120 days to solve a problem. That's a long time to wait if we have something that could potentially result in an MS4 violation. We want to have the funds available is basically a recurring account that we can go into to solve the problem immediately while we go through the legal process of recovering funds. The other thing that this does is this is also a bit of a safety net for citizens who, on their property, if there's a problem, they may not have the resources available to go out and do an instant fix. We can get out and get it taken care of, and then we can work with the citizen, just like Planning Community Development does, and arrange a payback or a payment program where they can reimburse the county for the funds that we use to solve the problem. And this initiative, like I said, this $100,000, we expect this to be continuing to be reloaded. We realize there's going to be some legal issues along the way where it may be difficult to recover funds, but this at least get us started and give us the ability to solve problems as they come up, to solve the problems quicker. This is an overview of what we have right now. Our base budget is $16.3 million, and our critical requests end up with just a little over $3.3 million. In addition to that, under the road and bridge, we are asking for $10 million. It'll be used just like we did in 2022 and in this year. I do not have that road list yet for you, how we would spend that money, but in a briefing that you'll be receiving before the end of the year, you're also going to get to see the results of a project that was funded to actually get an assessment of our roads that used LIDAR, that measured the width of the roads, depth of the roads, overall assessments, again, where instead of having a subjective request on what roads need to be done, it will now purely objective based off of data that was collected. And we will use that. And once we can kind of mill through all of that information, we'll be ready when we present our roads list for 2024. We'll present it at that time that if we do receive the additional $10 million, what that money would be spent on. And that concludes the information that I have pending any questions.
Any further questions or comments for Mr. Maston? Commissioner Williams?
I just want to thank you for the excellent job you're doing. One of the points I brought out in another meeting this week was in the 2008 budget, we used to put more mills into our roads, the Highway User Trust Fund mills, and I don't know if it was maybe 2 mills. Douglas County does 4 mills. And then on the Highway User Trust Fund mill levy, those are funds that have to go, that have a share back with the city. And so whether it's the city of Colorado Springs, the town of Monument, the city of Fountain, but they also count against our Tabor limitation. So we would have to share those funds back with the municipalities, and they would fit into our Tabor calculation, but we wouldn't get any value for them. And so in 2008, they cut the mill down to 0.33, which is the lowest amount you can go legally. And that's really caused us some problems. And that was one of the points I was making, and I was talking with the CDOT staff, and they said, you only have 0.33 dedicated to your roads on the Highway Users Trust Fund? And I said, yes, and that's one of the big problems we have because it takes a lot of money to pair with grants and other things. So it's been nice in these past couple of years to really see us put money into our road budget. I would still like to see at some point in the future, although I don't know when, more of a dedicated source for road funding, whether it's raising that, slowly increasing that mill levy, or maybe it's looking at starting to dedicate a portion of the sales tax towards roads. So just my comments. Thanks.
Commissioner Vanderwerf.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. With regard to critical need number one, the $2 million construction, I just kind of want to parse it out a little bit more. You can go back to that chart 10 if you want. But we did, as it does say in the note, we provided, I think, $1.5 million in 2023. And as part of the use of those dollars, you've done a bunch of the engineering work and have now found out it actually will cost more. So the project is now a total of $3.5 million, according to the chart.
That's correct.
So how refined is that number? And what I'm really trying to figure out is, $2 million is a very round number. So what kind of fidelity do you have on that? And is that severable over a couple of years? Or is it something that once started, you've got to consume the whole $2 million because you've got to, it's about ponds or something? So is it something that has to be in a single year? Can it be severed into a couple of years? And is that number of 2 million, how realistic is that,
I don't have the answer to the question. I don't have the spreadsheet that the engineers put together with the breakdown of what that cost is, and I don't, do you have that information? I'll get you the information. I'll get you the specifics on it as far as what the breakdown is for the cost, unless.
Okay, thanks.
We cannot split the money into multiple years because we need to be able to secure the funding for this year, or I guess it'd be 2024.
Okay. So that is, so in that particular case, the $2 million being a rounded number, it's all or nothing. It's either fully
That's
fund
correct.
it or don't fund it.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Gonzalez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I appreciate this. I like all the hard work, the information there. Good details on how we're trying to get to that next level of maintenance and operations. And I like the influx of the additional funds. That is one-time money. But this is outstanding. I think we're going to be able to do good things for our community next year with this budget. I've already mentioned it once before. I'd really like to see in 2025 a few more ongoing permanent funds for 2025. But this is outstanding and excellent. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Commissioner Geithner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to say how I know we don't have the chart in front of us today, but I'm thinking about the chart that Nikki Simmons presented to us, looking at the increased amount of funding that we have put into roads over the last several years. And I am very grateful to the great work that you're doing with that to make sure that our citizens know as we put that that money in that it is being utilized to the very best of what it can do for us. And I'm really grateful to this board for prioritizing those roads. As I often like to say, as a commissioner who lives in the unincorporated area and so therefore drives on these roads, I won't say more. I don't know where you guys all drive, but I would say, every time I leave my house, I'm driving on these roads, every time that I am driving in, and I am seeing such a huge difference in what that investment is making for our community. Some of those additional projects that were shown, those are just areas that I know our residents, and I'm hearing feedback from our residents that they are seeing that these roads are being completed. They are so pleased to drive on these nice, smooth roads, and I'm grateful to this board for the dedication of that and look forward to seeing that this year on the budget as well.
Thank you, Commissioner. Greg, if I can just promote Matthew, it's Matthew's team that works very closely with procurement, and Nikki's team in procurement. If people knew what goes on behind the scenes to get the money and the paperwork right, to get the roads built, there's so much that goes on, and I just can't thank them enough for what they do because it's very passionate. I will tell you that. Very, very passionate, and they get it done. And again, thank you for the support for this. We wouldn't be able to do it if you didn't support us on it.
My colleagues have said it very well. You're just doing a tremendous job in running a difficult and diverse department in terms of what you're responsible for. And it's quite impressive. In terms of the critical needs, I would say, whether it's 2 million or 3.5, to me, it's this Acres facility retention pond thing is not something that in many ways we could afford to not fund. So it's a given, and we certainly, we've done a lot of work with being able to enforce MS4 permits with other places, and to have one that we could fully control and take care of is just a no-brainer. So I hope the estimate is that we can be efficient, but I trust you and your department and procurement to just ensure that happens with the best value for the taxpayer. But I think either way, the best value for the taxpayer is for us to fix this. And I don't think there can even be a question mark around that. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. I believe next we have Mr. Olson with Facilities.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm glad to be here today. Again, my name is Brian Olson. I'm the Executive Director for El Paso County Facilities and Strategic Infrastructure Management. So today, we're here to talk about our 2024 critical needs list. And as you all know, facilities is an internal services department, and we either directly or indirectly support all of the county's elected offices and departments and their missions and how they help and support our county. The strategic plan and how we most impact the strategic plan is going to be through the first objective, which is infrastructure. Some of those that I've decided to put into this presentation is big impact is ADA. We have to ensure that all county citizens have equal access to county services. So the way we do that is to make sure there's no barriers in accessing those services through coming into our county facilities from the parking lot all the way to the front door to the department they're visiting. And we've done a great job. And if you go into the county website, you can see some of the things that we've done in accessing our ADA transition plan. Another thing we've done is a direct effect to our budgets is utility efficiencies. El Paso County, we have 132 buildings that the county uses to support the community and over 3 million square feet of buildings. So it's important that we look at ways to best to ensure, again, the efficiencies of our utilities. And one great thing that we've been doing is we've been applying for grants and how to do upgrades for LED lighting. And it's been a busy year. We're waiting for a lot of answers back on a couple of federal grants right now, and we feel pretty good on the possibilities of getting those grants done. As many of you know, we're working on our facilities master plan, and that master plan is looking in the future use of our buildings and space needs, current space needs, future space needs, which also includes a building assessment and how the conditions of our buildings and how to best prioritize funding in the future is, how to support those buildings and keep them operating. So being an internal services department, our other objective how we support the strategic plan is the second objective, so service quality. A shout out to my team and Randy Stacy and Shauna Southers here today. They're been working for almost 3 years now to adopt a new program. It's an online work order system. And again, I want to give appreciation to Nikki Simmons and to Jeff at IT for their support on this. This will be basically taking us out of the Stone Age. We've been working on, when our customer, which is the county employees, when they need help with a building, they just send an email or make a phone call. So this new system will help us to prioritize work orders as they come in and direct those to the proper departments and get those done immediately. We are a 24/7 operation, so if we have emergencies, the phone's still there and we're still answering them. So another great thing that we've initiated this year is a new project management software. Our projects continue to increase, and it's important for us to be able to manage those projects, track costs, tracks our projects where they're at. And we've actually found a great new system this year. It's a low cost and software that's really helping us to do our jobs, and has become our focal point of when we do our project meetings each week and where we're at on things, and allows our project managers, our project supervisors to let us know where we're at. It helps me to stay on target with where we're on those projects as well. So some cost indicators, and that number there, the 429%, really jumped out at me. And so, I took over facilities in 2017, so I kind of use that as my base. That first year after that is where are we at on facilities? We've reduced our overtime by 429%. That's a huge amount of money. And really, it's a testament to our county team, which you can see up here. There are a lot of our supervisors here, on how we're taking care of county facilities, improving our infrastructure, policy changes, things on how we and how we're taking care of your county facilities. We've completed, so far in the last 12 months, we've completed over 16,000 work orders. That's a 4% increase year over year. And we talked about utilities, and you can see here our expenses are up 5%. And I did a little bit of breakdown of that. Water reduction we've actually reduced our water use by 1%, 3% for electric. So the reason why our costs have gone up is really because of propane and natural gas. And while we've done so many things to help make our buildings be more efficient, we can't control the costs as they go up, as our suppliers go up. But I can tell you that if a lot of these things weren't done, we'd have a significant effect to our budget and utilities.
Commissioner Geithner.
I just want to ask a quick question on this. When you say water, there's a 1% reduction. Is this a 1% reduction in some unit of measurement of water, or is this the cost to that water?
It's the cost, but it's also in the amount of uses as far as gallons of water that we use.
So then on like the natural gas, because I agree, natural gas prices, spiked. And so in that case, are we using more natural gas significantly as well, or is that just simply the cost per unit?
Well, it's a good question. And so, when we have temperature drops and, these last couple of winters, there's been some times when temperatures have gotten really cold. So we can't control those situations when we will use more gas. But the answer to the question is we're pretty consistent year over year on how much gas we're using. So it's really due to the amount of rising costs.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. And so I think a good thing I wanted to mention here is we have a spreadsheet that we track our internal performance. And what that is we have the team that's got the talent, the skills, the professionalism to maintain a lot of our operations. A lot of people don't understand what it takes to maintain county facilities. We have a central utility plant, boilers, steam boilers, chillers, and rather we decided to, if we're going to have those type of people, how can we track the cost savings by having them do it versus contracting out? And there is a use for contracting work out and doing work internally, but what we've shown is by projects like the coroner's office, their toxicology freezer went down, so we had to replace those freezers. By using internal work to actually install that equipment, installing freezers, hardware components. The Criminal Justice Center is a big use of our resources here at the county as far as facilities goes, and the HVAC systems. We replace a lot of rooftop units, air conditioning units, all the above. But what we've shown is we've shown over $300,000 in savings by us being able to have the talent to do that work in-house. So that's allowed us to stretch that dollar to do more within the county and taking care of county facilities. Challenges. Pretty much like everywhere in the world, inflation has been an effector to us. Inflation is really raises the cost for materials. So those materials, whether it be construction projects or general maintenance, things that we do, it's had an effect on us. So that $300,000 helps us a lot to, keep the train on the tracks. Again, labor market, it's had a heavy effect to us in how we, internal staffing, how we try to attract new talent in. It's hard to find people that are qualified and that can work and want to work, that can pass background checks and drug tests and all these things, especially in the state of Colorado. Contracts. So not only has it affected contracts for the cost to do things, but timing. So our contractors are having a hard time finding people to do projects. So it is stretching our projects out to get them done, and it can be frustrating to people. So it's good for everyone to understand why that is. Supply chain. We found things that previous to COVID that would take a few weeks to get. Now we're finding it's months to maybe even years to get some materials and products from our suppliers, and that all kind of goes to the things we just talked about with the contracts and staffing and those things. And Commissioner Greider, you would understand this. So Colorado legislation has made a lot of changes that they're having a heavy effect to El Paso County. Mandates on energy efficiencies. There's a large push to electrify county buildings, and these buildings are they're older buildings, but they're designed around the mechanical components that we have, and just to change those things makes it complicated if the technology even is there, but complicated to make these things work. And they really, because of this, they push a lot of unrealistic building goals on us. So 2023, we had some great successes, and some of these things you've heard about, but we actually finished all our DDC controls, our direct digital controls, and that's how we basically manage and monitor heating and controlling throughout the county's buildings. And this is one of those things that we help us to be efficient in how the buildings function as far as utilities go, but also a safety thing. So especially for cybersecurity and how we can keep the bad guys from entering county computers through any means, and for those of you who may remember, Target actually had years ago, that's how they actually entered, they had a cyber attack to their HVAC facilities. I think a great thing I want to mention, I mentioned Criminal Justice Center is a large use of resources for us, the county. It's a 24/7 operation at the jail, and it is considered a critical piece of infrastructure. A project that Scotty Johnson, who's our building manager over there, they did some hand dryer installations, and you don't think what kind of effect that has, but so by doing those hand dryers, it saved the county $114,000 in those material costs for hand towels. But what happens is also those inmates, they may be having a bad day. They want to shove those things down drains, and we have clogged drain problems. So that causes us overtime and calls to come in there and to remove those drains, to clean those drains. So good example of how a small project can have a major effect on a county. The Swatch parking garage, we've updated our procedures and really have improved customer service with the county and how their experience is when they use our parking garages. We've done a lot of LED conversions continuing, and Kevin had mentioned some of his projects. We actually converted using our internal staff to convert LED lighting to their external parking lot, their lot for their employees and for their equipment, and then also for exterior lights in the building. The courthouse, we're almost complete. It should be shortly here, the hot water piping update. So we had to replace all the hot water pipes in the south building. It was a major project. That's almost completed. As you know, the facilities master plan is about that close. The building assessments have been completed. We're about to roll out the conditions of our buildings here shortly. Bear Creek Nature Center, we appreciate being able to work with parks on that. The Trailability Program, have you all heard about? We actually installed a new lift to transfer people in wheelchairs from their wheelchair to the I forgot the name of the trail hoppers. Thank you. So we have hired a new, we're expanding our roles with ADA. So previously we've been focusing on infrastructure, but we know that that's only a part of what we need to make sure that we do properly here at the county. So we've hired a new person, allowing us to focus on programs and services and activities that the county supplies to the community. Great example of, literature, any kind of way that we communicate with the public. They help to work with those, with our departments to ensure that we're ADA compliant. Last, again, to mention ADA, we're in the final phase of installing ADA, installing transfer showers in the cells. This allows inmates that have maybe walking disabilities to transfer from a wheelchair into their shower. So it keeps us out of legal liabilities by ensuring ADA compliance in that building. So we have 2 requests before you for critical needs. One of those in the past, again, this is not a new request, but elevators. But difference this year, and I appreciate Nikki's idea on this, is we're asking for $650,000 ongoing to support elevator maintenance and installations. This is obviously supported by the first objective of the strategic plan. We have 48 elevators in the county. So right now we're doing a good job. We've got an elevator replacement plan. We've reviewed those based on the age of the elevators, based on the use, based on the operations they support, on which ones need to be replaced next. So we replaced 18 of those, about 38%, but 27% of the remaining elevators we have are 45 years and older. So we still have a ways to go yet. I appreciate the past support and both the board and by our county administrator. We're doing good things and we'll continue that. The other thing is $50,000 we're asking for ongoing for parks facilities maintenance. And so and historically parks we've always supported the county in facilities obviously, and parks as well. They've kind of taken care of their own maintenance. And it just makes more sense for us to do that. This is what we do. And I mentioned we have the staff to do this stuff. So as we take on those duties to all of Parks facilities, which is the nature centers, the fairgrounds, these types of facilities, we're looking for $50,000 ongoing to support those efforts. So as far as our base budget request, the difference from year over year is really the ongoing funding request that we have put in for today's presentation. And that's it.
Yes, thank you very much. First of all, again, great work. I think it's really awesome that we're thinking about our facilities holistically, and I think we've made an enormous amount of progress as a result of doing that. A couple of questions, though. So this is actually something that came to my mind when we did the Trailability Program. And it's kind of a broader question, but I think it could possibly apply in specific cases. We've got this, the American Disabilities Act, ADA, and that thing seems to be compelling everybody to put in hundreds of millions of dollars worth of curb ramps and all this kind of stuff. And then there's an enormous amount of investment in buildings that come as a result of that act and so forth. And now that I think about the Trailability Program, what we did with Trailability was actually give the person with a disability a tool so they can go down a trail. So now I have this question: would it be more cost effective to just give people with a disability a tool that could go over a curb instead of spending tens of millions of dollars on ramps? Or would there be something that we could do to give a person with a disability a tool to move around in a building instead of completely revamping the building to accommodate those people? We do it by providing a better wheelchair, let's say, as opposed to 10,000 ramps. So I just am now curious, because of what we did with the Trailability Program, is if there's in fact a better way to allow people that have whatever disabilities they have to access our buildings and services without having to do an enormous amount of expense in the building itself. So I don't even know if ADA even contemplates that idea. So that's my first question for you. And I don't know if there's some good thinking we can go through on that point.
Commissioner, I
Chair?
appreciate your comment. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry to cut you off, Brent. Madam Chair, could I interject really quickly? Commissioner Vanderwerf, we could have a further discussion about this, but I don't believe the federal law allows for replacement of a wheelchair over ramps at public buildings. There's pretty well-established precedent on that. But I think that it's probably a topic worth chasing down a little bit further, probably down the road.
Yeah, I thank you. I appreciate that. And I appreciate the comments about the law. So that's kind of where the law might be, right? But it's sometimes, this might not be an idea that is more cost effective. I don't know the answer, frankly. But I do feel like, wow, we're spending a lot of money on ramps and things like that, but maybe there is a better investment choice. So I would like to kind of just chase that down and see if there's something about that. The other question I have, and it's actually been a fairly common theme, because I also asked the question when DPW was here, and that's, that the average age of these elevators are 45 years or older. I'll just be fair, that really doesn't mean anything to me, because like I was running the C-130 program for the Air Force, and we were dealing with 50-year-old airplanes. So it really, for me, the better comment is about what is the replacement? What is the proper replacement time when you're doing a pairwise comparison between the maintenance cost and the replacement cost? And you eventually get to a point where the return on investment in maintenance isn't worth it anymore. But in some of those cases, you might find conditions where the item could be 100 years old and it's actually cheaper to maintain it. And I think many of us have sometimes had these experiences where you replace an old item with a new item. The new item is more cheaply made, and therefore it ends up breaking more often. It's the old item that actually lasts longer. So I don't know what a 45-year-old elevator actually means.
Sure. Well, great comments, Commissioner. I would say that the issue that we come into a lot of these is similar to what DPW had, is when you have older aging infrastructure, parts become obsolete. So the problem is an elevator that's 45 years old, we continue. We've got contracts with elevator companies that basically they look at the age of an elevator and the parts, and based on their history, what parts need to be replaced at what time in their life, and based on the usage, but it comes to a point where those parts just don't become available anymore. And so we either have to send in to make something, which is incredibly expensive and timely to have done, or it's best to just replace them. And, I think kind of going back to what you said, they don't make it like they used to on some of these things. But the other thing is efficiency, the energy efficiency. So a lot of this newer equipment is more efficient in how it operates for energy usage. And but elevators, the key, anything key in elevators is safety. And so I can tell you that components today are designed to be more safe than they were years ago. So there's lots that we could put into that. And but again, what we have to do is make sure that the building can operate. And if you've got 5 floors and an elevator's not functioning, and the DA's office is a great example, when you got 2 elevators and we were replacing them both at the same time, and people have to use stairs, gets into ADA. So if they can't use the stairs, it leaves us open for so many liabilities. So
Thank you.
thank you.
Any further questions or comments? Commissioner Geithner.
Thank you. Just a couple of comments. Thank you for such a thorough presentation. I think there's so much that goes into each one of these slides. There's just so much information. And so I just want to comment on a couple of things that you mentioned. So one of the things that I feel like we are seeing a little bit of a trend with already this morning is how important it is to collect data and make smart and precise decisions that can have huge return, like small projects, small things that can have major savings and returns on investment. So I thank you for that as well, since that just has been a recurring theme this morning. But I also want to comment on a couple of things, in particular what you mentioned about the energy regulations and requirements coming down from the state. I'm very grateful to this board for allowing me to participate in a lot of that. And obviously, Commissioner Gonzalez does a lot through Colorado counties. And so this is an item that I'm going to mention is coming up in our Pikes Peak Promise that was rolled out. And this is not just a concern for us, but it's a concern across the region that we are all running into these. And so we are looking for ways to work on that and continue to do that at the state level. So thank you for bringing that up. And thank you for your work and helping us truly to have the data to really know. I mean, this is about good policy and good decision making. And when we see savings, when we see the technology being available to go cleaner and greener and just create better value for the county and for our citizens, we're doing those things. But we can't do it with a magic wand. It's got to be driven by reality. It's got to be driven by the market. It's got to be driven by the possibilities that are there and truly the economics of it. So we're going to continue to work on that, I know, but thank you for your work in helping us make those good decisions and putting forward good decisions to our state in terms of data and what we're doing here. I also wanted to point out, we've also seen on a couple of presentations this morning, we've talked about labor market. And I find this really interesting because as I was listening to an economic report on our nation this morning, one of the things that often is not connected in the media or when we have these conversations about the labor force and the low unemployment rate. We talk all the time, it's a low unemployment rate, it's great, low unemployment rate, so great. But there is a sweet spot, just like everything in the economy, where when we start to see an unemployment rate that is that dips really low, down below that 3%, and we've had particularly low here in our region, it does create another problem, which is we have such a tight labor market that we have a hard time getting people and competing, and then we have to raise salaries and we have to compete in other ways. So just a really, I think, important thing to mention that the economy is a big machine with lots of moving pieces, and every single time one of those pieces changes, there isn't a magic number. It's not just keep going lower and lower. It affects us in so many different ways. So just wanted to make that comment that while we are seeing that tight labor market and seeing problems here at the county, that's everywhere, and that is primarily due to the just different mechanisms in the economy that are causing those things. Maybe due to some of the policy choices, I think, during the pandemic as well. But that is definitely something for us to pay attention and be aware of, that there are a whole lot of levers that are moving, and we have to be aware that anytime we are impacting any of those levers, it comes up with unintended consequences.
Any other comments? I just wanted to thank you and your entire team. Oftentimes these facilities you do everything behind the scenes and under and around us, but the work you do is critical to ensuring that we can continue to provide the services that El Paso County citizens expect. And I'm grateful for you and your team for realizing that you're a critical role in all of that as well, even though it may be somewhat unseen and unlauded other than your annual budget presentation. So I just wanted to take the opportunity to say thank you for that. Are there any other comments or questions? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Olson.
Thank you, commissioners. Have a good day.
Thank you. And I think we will move on at this point to the Honorable Mark Flucher, our county assessor, and then we will be taking a break, probably a 15-minute or so break before moving on to, it looks like, Mr. Carey, then our clerk and recorder, Steve Schleicher, and Human Resources with Mr. Frost.
Morning, Commissioners. Mark Flucher, County Assessor. The strategic goal of the Assessor's Office is to leverage technological advances to improve customer service, reduce operating costs, and improve efficiency. Operating indicators to note are the county has approximately 300,000 parcels, including business personal property. About 230,000 of those are residential. 76,000 senior homestead exemption applications have been processed since its inception. Of that, we currently have approximately 36,000 exempted parcels under the program. The total number of title transfers we have accomplished through August, and I have an amended number from the slide, is 19,000. We are on track to process over 30,000. For 2022, we came close to 36,000 title transfers completed. These parcel counts are important metrics in determining the staff needed to handle the new primary residence classification should Proposition HH pass. For our budgetary highlights, our total budget was $4.5 million for 2023. Of that, 92% went to salary and benefits for 46 full-time employees, which includes 25 licensed appraisers. The remaining $360,000 has been used for operations. The big win for our office this year has been going live with our new computer-assisted mass appraisal software. It's a major step in achieving our goal of our strategic goal of improved efficiency. I will say there are growing pains with that. We are adjusting business processes, and there's additional staff training going on right now. For critical needs, the Postal Service increased rates in July, including an increase in the bulk rate of postage from 42.6 cents to 49.8 cents. Our expenditure year to date is $367,000. 57% of that is postage. In the future, it will be necessary to spend more of our operations budget to meet the increased postage costs. In addition, with the increase in population, commercial and construction, especially apartment buildings, I know you've all seen those popping up everywhere throughout the county to meet our housing needs. Our commercial staff is inundated with new building permits, not to mention the appeals that we were hit with this year. A new commercial appraiser is necessary to meet the needs of this section and the citizens of our county. Lastly, an estimated 2.5 full-time employees will be needed should Proposition HH pass. The increase in the size of government directly attributable to the requirement is for handling applications for reclassification as a primary residence. The estimate I used is based on the amount of work our senior homestead coordinator currently does for that program. Again, we have about 36,000 participants in it currently. I'm expecting about 155,000 participants in the primary residence classification. All of those hitting the county at once, should everybody apply at once. According to the latest American Community Survey from the Census Bureau, that 155,000 comes from a percentage of owner-occupied housing provided by the census. In addition, we may need additional office space and public-facing counter to handle walk-ins with their applications. We're not sure exactly what that process will be yet. We'll have to receive some guidance from the state.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll just highlight on that last one. This is what happens when state governments, governors, people who have no idea what they're doing, pass along unfunded mandates to our local governments, and then essentially our taxpayers have to take up and cover all that for poor decisions at the other levels. And so this is what happens when some people think bigger government is better. So thank you for the feedback and the information there.
That is correct, Commissioner. And I also noted that in the Blue Book, the Division of Property Taxation at the state level is going to see increases as well from this proposition. For our office, we are requesting an additional 116,500, 25,000 of which would be for postage, 91,500 for an additional commercial appraiser. And I do not have a number for you at this time, but should Proposition HH pass, an additional 2.5 full-time employees. Are there any questions for me?
Commissioner Vanderwerf.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate Commissioner Gonzalez's point, and to your request here, and maybe it's on the chart and I just missed it, but those 2.5 additional FTEs, what's your, plus whatever other costs that would accrue with Proposition HH, what's your assessment converting that to a dollar cost?
It would be based on the salary of our current homestead exemptions coordinator. I don't have her salary offhand, but I can get that for you.
I'd be interested in knowing what that number is.
All right.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes. I noticed underneath the improvements to your system, you were looking at ways of taking the United States Postal Service out of the loop, which I appreciate. The Postal Service is actually not under Congress, not under the president. It's in the Constitution itself, and we can see that it has no real accountability to our citizens. So I'm not happy with my local post office, as you can tell. So, but when you say that you're trying to make improvements to allow property owners to opt in for electronic notices, are you looking at emails or text messages?
Would be emails, and under statute, we still have to mail to them unless they opt in. So it requires the citizens' participation requesting the opt-in from our office. We're not quite at the point of implementing that, but we hope to first quarter of next year.
I have to wonder also if you could include text messages where they go to a website, if that could be added into the statute through your assessors association, because I know, we get the voter updates, and I know the access that, the clerk and recorder has, so that he can tell me that, yes, should have received my ballot, and I did receive it. And those kind of text messages that you can opt into, so that people can just check on their phones, and that way you don't have to worry about changing my email addresses. But it's just an idea, but I appreciate that, because if we could avoid the post office, I would appreciate it.
I will definitely check with our software vendor and see if that's a possibility.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions or comments? Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
Okay. I think at this point, let's take a break for about 15 minutes. And again, when we come back, we will start with Mr. Carey, and then move on to the clerk and recorder, and then human resources. Thanks so much. Recess. Morning and welcome back to the budget hearings on October 19th of the Board of County Commissioners. We are resuming, I believe, with our next department, Justice Services. Mr. Carey.
Good morning, Madam Chair, honorable commissioners. Thank you for a little bit of time today. I will try to be as brief as possible. My name is Pete Carey. I'm the Executive Director of Justice Services for El Paso County. I brought along the supervisory staff of Veteran Services because today my critical need request is for 3 additional Veteran Service Officers. So I have El Paso County's Veteran Service Officer, Mr. Marshall Bosworth here, along with Assistant Veteran Service Officer Charles Graves and our Office Manager, Mr. Chad Fair. So thank you guys for attending. Simply put, the El Paso County Veteran Services Division helps local veterans navigate the complicated process of claiming federal benefits for their military service. El Paso County has well over 100,000 veterans and family members. We are truly a garrison community, and I really like to use that term. I think that's pretty cool, and it means a lot to me and our staff. Our Veteran Service Office is really, really busy. They conduct between 6,000 and 8,000 client contacts per month, many in person. I think one of the most significant parts of this slide is the effectiveness of when a VSO from El Paso County works with a veteran. If a veteran walks in, makes an appointment, and uses our services, the average annual disability compensation is about $20,000. If they do not, it's about $10,000 annually. And that final bullet regarding about $500,000 in retroactive payments so far in 2023, that's a little bit underreported. We simply don't have a full-time staff to track that number, but I think it ended up being well over $800,000 last year. So in trying to find out where we need to be as far as wait times, that's our big issue. When a veteran comes in and needs to be served by one of our VSOs, it's the wait time, in particular with first-time vets as well as appeals. And some guidance we've gotten from the Department of Military and Veterans Affairs, as well as Colorado Division of Veterans Affairs, is we should try to stay around a 2-week wait time for a veteran to meet with the Veteran Service Officer, and no more than a 2 business day delay in responding to any inquiry. Honestly, we're challenged with that. It's tough in the last year or two, and I'll explain why. As it stands right now, our wait time for that first appointment for our veterans is about 6 weeks, probably a little bit over that since PACT Act. And it's just a high demand for veterans and family members. Some of the things that we have done in 2023 in order to tighten up our operation and be a little bit more lean and mean and effective is on this slide. We have trained a very, very new staff, admin techs, to do the scheduling right now. I think Mr. Graves started that program and tested it with himself. A lot of moving parts there, asking the right questions, making sure that they have the right documents when they come in for the first meeting, or that 6 weeks is wasted. It's working very, very well to the point where we are now able to ask our VSOs to have 6 appointments a day, up from 5. So we've increased that capacity. It's a big, busy, rigorous schedule each and every day, though. The way they're set up is Monday through Thursday, our VSOs meet 6 veterans, and on Fridays they try to catch up with the calls and the texts and the telephone messages, and that can be anywhere from a few hundred per VSO. We've also tightened up how we help Fort Carson with benefits delivered before discharge, or BDD claims. I'm learning some of these military terms. I understand about half of what these guys say, but I'm getting some of this now. And basically, as someone is, I believe, within 6 months of leaving their military service through Fort Carson, we meet with them and get them scheduled and get them squared away on what they're going to need as far as the claims upon retirement. So we're exclusively focusing in the last year on veterans that are going to stay in El Paso County. So that's helped us streamline that a little bit. I'm very, very proud of what we've done for the changes in PACT Act and the expansion of benefits in the last year in El Paso County. We've led the state, we've led the nation on some of the programs we've helped inform and serve our veterans. An example is the 18 claims clinics, as well as 2 additional claims clinics for our veterans. We held a 3-day PACT Act clinic that was held in August. I think Mrs. Bryan attended that. Well over 1,000 veterans showed up, and it was quite a collaboration between the state and the feds. So our justification, as I've already touched on, is our wait time has increased from about 3 to 4 weeks in the last year or so to well over 6 weeks. That does not comport very well with our strategic plan and our goals as far as service quality, as well as our vision statement as far as a trusted regional leader known for excellence in county service delivery. I truly believe that the El Paso County Veteran Services Unit is a trusted leader. The hook right now is the amount of time it takes for a veteran to get that service, and I think we can do better. One of the things that we've observed is when a veteran does not want to wait for the amount of time that it takes to get into our office, they take a risk and they complete the forms and they try to do it without our help. And in many cases, it ends up in incomplete claims and some financial loss. As I've already said, it's about double from 10,000 to 20,000 when we help. Again, it just greatly improves the odds of success for our veterans. The game plan, if you approve hiring 3 additional veteran service officers, one will go to the Mount Carmel Service Center, where there is already 2 veteran service officers as well as an admin tech, and the other 2 will come over to our building on the east side and complement that team over there. This depicts the cost of adding 3 VSOs, and my request for the 2024 budget is all in 2008, 169, 208, 169. I think this is absolutely needed. It's necessary. I've had the honor and privilege of working with this team for the last couple of years. In my 40 years of public service, I've worked with a lot of highly effective teams, but what I see this group do day in and day out, serving people that have well-deserved needs that need to be met and the benefits that they get for them, it's amazing. It's an honor working with those guys. I do see some wear around the edges as far as the pace that we're holding them to, 6 veterans a day, as well as sometimes hundreds of follow-up calls on Friday. My hope is, and I will reduce those numbers in 2024, my hope is to get it down below a month as far as a wait time when people come in through the door. So thank you very much. I appreciate your support over the last couple of years, as well as Mr. Waters and Mrs. Sonny Bryant.
Thank you, sir. I just want to commend you and your staff. I know that the workload has been very high, and just to clarify for the public too, it may not sound like a lot of appointments to have your VSOs doing 5 to 6 appointments a day, but those are incredibly intense and incredibly detailed, and it's shown in the results that you get when we do an application. But that that initial consult or the consults that occur are incredibly time intensive, and so 5 to 6 appointments a day is quite impressive. And then in addition to answering the questions and finishing the other applications that come in during that time, and running the clinics. I'm incredibly proud of what your division does, what this division does. I mean, I think this is one of the most targeted and strategic critical needs things we could do right now.
Thank you. And when we try to schedule an hour per appointment, that's if all goes well. There are many times when the lobby has people waiting because their appointment has been delayed because of something going on. But, and again, if it's okay with you along that point, I'd ask Marcel to come up and talk to you about our our satisfaction surveys, what those numbers have been in the last year. So maybe that's a good time to just briefly talk about that, Marshall.
Thanks, Pete. Good morning, Commissioners. Specifically with our surveys, they're kind of simple. They really just ask how their service was from the minute they walk through the door to the minute they walk out the door, highlighting the customer service at the front desk, the service they got from the veteran service officer, and the outcome. And then we ask how they learned about our service. One of the questions that we have on our survey, which we don't grade, but we ask the question about the waiting times. And our average, so up to this point this year, we just looked at this about 2 days ago, is a 4.85 out of 5 is our satisfaction. And everybody is usually extremely happy with the services that they're provided. The biggest and mostly only complaint that we get is our wait times. When we have to, you know, some folks are actually waiting about up to 2 months to come and just get an appointment with us. And if for some reason they don't bring the stuff we've asked them to bring or whatever, that delays it even more. And so they tend to go find services somewhere else that are not being provided by accredited service officers. And then we end up fixing a lot of those problems too, which is another part of that. But so really 4.8 out of 5, I'm really proud of that. I think that's a good number to have. I really like to maintain that, if not even make it higher, but the waiting times is really the biggest piece that we're gigged on, if you want to call it that. So thank you.
Well, thank you. And we look forward to hearing more about and from your department in our upcoming Veterans Day proclamation in the next few weeks.
So I'll continue to report those numbers on the citizen satisfaction survey. Marshall didn't like me to add the numbers on the wait time, so I did that, but I asked for the comments on it. Are you okay with the wait time? So I think the 4.8 might be affected if we graded the wait time, so we didn't do that this year. But again, I'll be reporting not only the survey results as well as what the wait times on average are in 2024, and we will get that down.
Excellent. Thank you. Commissioner Gonzalez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So appreciate the information. I know this is valuable, and you'll be able to utilize the additional manning and funding for for what we want to do is making sure we're taking care of our veterans and our local population and what we can do for them. My one, as this had come to us in the last couple of months, a lot of this is because of the PACT Act, and we've been looking, you know, with our federal partners, congressional delegation to, you know, hopefully there's will be additional funding for some of these VSOs, et cetera, for the state as well. But the delays, the slowness because of the increased applications trying to get benefits. The surge we're seeing now may not be long term. Once this initial, you know, year of PACT Act applicants goes through, it may stay. We don't know. And so I think in my comments over the last couple of months, as we saw the original budget was, if the numbers go back down, the timeliness goes down, that, you know, instead of 2, maybe that third position goes to another area in the county. If the numbers come down and unjustified, I'll likely no longer be a commissioner at that point, but I did highlight that in my comments. I just want to make sure that that's something that the staff understands, that maybe, you know, one of those bills might in the future be better off somewhere else if the numbers return more to the numbers we've seen in the last several years. If not, then absolutely, you know, we'll support the full 3 additional VSOs long term. But that was just a comment I had as I saw these numbers, and I know the surge is largely because of PACT Act changes. Thank you.
I appreciate that comment, Commissioner, and your attention to detail on that. What we've seen in the last year or so since PACT Act 822 is these are local El Paso County veterans. They're staying here, and our veterans service officers will serve them or their family members if they pass away for the rest of their lives. But for what we're seeing in the last year is they are El Paso County residents and veterans, and they're staying here. But I appreciate that, and I'll give you the numbers to support that, and make sure we're tracking that very closely. I don't believe the PACT Act definitely jumped it up, but I believe it's not going to be a fad. It's going to they're really busy.
Thank you. So really appreciate this. And obviously this is, as it is to, I think, every one of us, near and dear to my heart, especially as a military spouse. And the PACT Act was, I think, a very important thing for our military families, having a spouse that served overseas near all those burn pits and all those things, and having so many people that we met along that journey and knowing the impacts to so many people. I'm pleased that they're taking advantage of the opportunity that this is. And I think it's, I appreciate that we're doing the very best that we can, but we have to do better. We have to do better for these folks. So I'm very supportive of this. I do have a couple of questions. So you said currently we're at about 6 weeks in terms of wait time. And with these 3, what I think I heard maybe we'd get down to more like 4 weeks. What is the goal with these 3, and what do we expect to see once we start getting these 3 people in place? What changes, what milestones will we see to really see the benefit here for our
Great question.
community?
So thank you for that question. Again, if approved, it's going to take a little bit of time to hire them and get them trained and accredited. What I can tell you is in the last year, we've gone through this at least once with a new VSO. Once he was up and running, and I ask about this every week, is what are you seeing in the results here? And it looks like based on the favorable work this new VSO is doing, my expectation is we're going to take at least for each new VSO at least 1 week off of that wait time and reduce that with that additional 30 veterans coming in and seeing that person, 25 to 30 veterans. So there will be a little bit of a delay in getting that person up to speed and accredited so they can get into the VA system and all that. But my hope, my realistic hope is that those numbers start dropping in second quarter. And by the third and fourth quarter, we're down well under a month. Heard that.
Follow up. Yeah, just to follow up on that, I really appreciate that. Thank you for quantifying that. And I, as I said, I'm very supportive of this because I think, if there is anyone in our community who deserves to make sure that they are, their wait times are not significant, it is this population that has given so much for our nation. So I'm very supportive of this. But I would say, and I'm sure that we will get updates along the way, but I just want to kind of put it on the record that I would really like to see an update. If you're saying second quarter, then second quarter of next year, I would want to see, maybe come, whether here or an informal meeting or whatever that looks like. I'll leave the details to you and the county administrator, but I would really like to see some updates on this so that we really are understanding and making sure that we are seeing those wait times go down for those members of our community, because it's just so important.
Thank you. Will do.
Commissioner Vanderwerf.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, I just want to thank everybody in the VSOs and the entire office and all of Justice Services for the great work that you do. And, I like it that you're actually monitoring the wait times. These are actually, indicators of things that deal with performance. But I do have a couple of questions myself. So the first one is the PACT Act itself. Is this increased workload anticipated to be transient until the backlog gets worked off, or is it anticipated to be a permanent increased workload?
I'm going to, sir, I'll let Marshall come up and speak to that. But my understanding is this has expanded the net of available benefits for our veterans. It's going to be here to stay. It's a good thing for our veterans. We just need to increase our capacity to handle it. But I believe it will be here to stay. The last year has not been a good year to gauge it because there was a period of time between August of 22 and August of 23 to get as many people intent filed so that they would get backdated to August of 22. So that's why we pushed real hard with all those stand downs and events. But it will be here, and I think it will continue. Marshall?
Thank you, Commissioner, for that question. I do believe, I'll just say, since the first year of the PACT Act ended at the beginning of August, we have not slowed down with people requesting to do PACT Act claims. And the big push for the first year was because it affected their effective date of claim to when the date was signed into law. but the PACT Act is here to stay. It's not going away. I would imagine over time it may slow down some, but I think that's years to come. And additionally to that, as Pete alluded to, is when we have veterans or family members that come to us, they're our clients for life. So we don't see somebody 1 or 2 times and then we don't ever see them again. We see them basically forever. So our workload continues to just grow. It doesn't slow down unless, people pass away or maybe move away. But we get more coming in than we do in those other circumstances.
Yeah, thank you. And I just wish, as much as the VA does help a lot of people, I wish they would actually monitor their wait times as well, because it took me 18 months to get my disability rating, 18 months. And, I'm not trying to be critical, but for Pete's sake, they have one of the biggest chunks of the federal budget and one of the biggest chunks of the federal budget, and they can't manage this. I think that's also an immense level of frustration for veterans.
Yes, sir. And
If they would just do a design about how to think about that process and do some kind of a design to improve the speed of it, we would all benefit from that.
And with your support, last year, we have trained and hired an appeals specialist. And if I'm not mistaken, Marshall, I think there was one in the state before that, one state appeal specialist to help a veteran. And that person would usually call the vet a day before saying, hey, you ready tomorrow? Here's what we're going to do. We put the time and work into it, and our numbers are going to show how successful we are on these appeals. And at last count, I asked Marshall this morning, El Paso County Veteran Service Office appeals specialist is doing from 1/3 to 1/2 of all of Colorado's appeals, because there's that many veterans here and because people know our reputation. But it would be good if they paid attention to those numbers too.
Thank you.
Commissioner Williams.
I just wanted to thank Marshall and the staff, because this is such an important thing that the county does, and we do it the best in the state. And that is so important. We are the gold standard for the other veterans offices throughout counties in the state, and we love our military community, and we want to treat the veterans with the status they deserve. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for the kind words. I try not to give him a big head, but he's got quite a reputation both at the federal and state level. When policies being decided on or made, he gets calls from our national senators to our state organizations asking him, how are you guys doing it down there? What do you think about this? I know he's been very involved in recent weeks with some conversations about a stipend payment coming back to counties for full-time accredited VSOs, and he's put a lot of work into that. And I think from a financial point of view, I've shared it with Nikki, I think that may help ease the burden a little bit in the future here, and it's well-deserved. I mean, our county's doing the heavy lifting on this. Thank you.
Commissioner Geithner.
Thank you. So I just wanted to make one kind of final comment, and I greatly appreciate your words about Marshall and the fantastic work that's doing. And I know we're talking about critical needs, and this is a huge part, but I also wanted to take a moment to just thank you, Pete, for all of the work that you're doing. This is one piece of all kinds of different things that that you are managing, and I wanted to even though it's not a critical need that presented today, I wanted to just acknowledge that work that you're doing, and thank you for the tremendous work that you're doing with community corrections as well. We just because it's not a critical need doesn't mean there aren't fantastic things going on there. And so I just wanted to point out that, again, one of those things that we are trying very hard to do is make sure that when we have, criminal things going on in our community and we see crime rising, looking deep into the data and what is happening in those programs and figuring out ways to be more successful and keep our community safe and rehabilitate people back to being productive members of society. So just wanted to mention that and thank you for that, in addition to being focused on this critical need.
Thank you very much.
Any further comments or questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Clerk and Recorder.
Good morning, Commissioner Steve Schleicher, El Paso County Clerk and Recorder. Before I begin, hey, Pete, I just want to share with you, thank you. I'm one of those individuals that the VA reached out to by serving in Desert Storm and Desert Shield, and when I was in Iraq, I was at the burn pits. And honestly, guys, I ignored the letters that were sent to me by the VA. I've been pretty busy the last 9 months being our new clerk, and I actually sent an email, Pete, to your staff. I received an email response within 15 minutes from Chris. Chris said, get down here. I met him the next morning. Chris, I believe it was 7:45 in your office. Opened the door, had me in there, explained everything to me, and I walked out, everything taken care of. These guys are amazing. Thanks, guys. Yeah. You guys do an amazing job, so thank you. So, Commissioners, I'm going to sit there and just share with you the 2024 critical needs for the Clerk and Recorder's Office. The vision of your Clerk and Recorder's Office is to be a trusted regional leader known for excellence in county service and delivery. Our purpose is we provide essential public services to our Pikes Peak region in support of our residences, businesses, and communities, enhancing the freedom for all of us to thrive. What are the department's strategic plan goals? Because we're sitting here looking at 4 different statutory offices that fall under Clerk and Recorder, which is motor vehicle, recording, clerk to the board, and also elections. So goal 1, measurable increasing customer satisfaction. As I strongly believe in providing the best customer experience, and that measure is based on reaction time, customer sentiment, and brand. Offering great customer value, continually work on the customer's perception of our services. We offer more here in El Paso County than any other Clerk and Recorder's office in the state of Colorado. For example, many in the state clerks do not offer driver's license services. We do. We're the only office that is open on a Saturday up at our Union Town Center, which is extremely important to many here in our community because they don't have to take time off and take a pay cut to come renew the registration or get a marriage license or such. Goal 3, boosting customer outreach. Discover which platforms our customers are most active on so we can reach them about our services. Goal 4, open a new dealer desk. I would like to eliminate 1/3 of the Citizen Service Center customer flow. And what that is we have dealers here within our community, if they're up there off of Powers or if they're off of Motor City, and now we have dealers opening up in Monument, where they will come into our offices with stacks and stacks of titles, needing title work done, needing car registrations, a number of things. But there's times where they could sit there and take up one of our motor vehicle techs for several hours, which means then the wait time for our citizens is going up. What I want to do is pull the motor vehicle dealer desk out of the Citizen Service Center. It will still be located in the Citizen Service Center. And thanks to our HR director, he was so kind to basically say the old HR office at the Citizen Service Center, Steve, you can have that, where we can turn that into our dealer desk and pull that out, reduce the wait times at the Citizen Service Center where the dealers can go directly there and get their services done and not affect our normal citizens. Goal 5, increasing employee retention, is invest in our employees and also reassess our compensation. And that's something I really want to talk to you all about today, is right now my motor vehicle techs are coming in at about $19.25 an hour, and when they go home to work, or go home, I should say, after work, is they're driving by Chick-fil-A and Whataburger offering $20 to $21 an hour. So those are things I want to sit there and talk to you about as well. So, department's operating indicators. So I want to talk to you about the motor vehicle department. Currently, I have 80 full-time staff and 26 part-time employees. Here are the numbers from January 1 through current. Is 75.15% is titles and registrations. To date, we are just shy of 230,000 titles and registrations that we have worked in our motor vehicle branches, which we have 4. We have our Powers office, Fort Carson, Citizen Service Center, and Union Town Center. 19.38% is driver's license. And keep in mind, this is a favor to the Department of Revenue. Not many clerk and recorders in the state provide this service. And just to share with you, we were just shy of 5,500 driver's licenses, either renewals or new driver's licenses last month, which was the most in the state and combined for 63 counties. Dealer services, 1.88%. So we have basically looked at license, or not licenses, but titles and registrations, 5,725. And what I'm also proud of is military service. These are folks where they get express, and we, look at that, but we have served just shy of 11,000 of our service members with driver's license and also vehicle registrations and renewals. Our elections department, as you guys know, we are extremely busy right now. As Nikki called up, said, hey, can you come on down? I was just greeting about 20 new election judges as we are now processing ballots of folks that have voted. But here is what we're looking at is total active voters as of October 9th is 483,048. And taking a look here as far as other unaffiliated Democrats and Republicans, how it's broken down, where other parties is 2.16%, unaffiliated is 49.65%, Democrats at 17.82%, and Republicans at 30.37%. These are individuals that every day we are getting emails, calls, or folks that are coming in wanting to register, or they're letting us know they no longer live here, preparing for an election. These guys work extremely hard. Going into our recording department, I have 9 full-time employees. 87% of our services there in recording is recording total documents, total pages, total copies. We're just shy of 500,000 copies and documents that we're sitting there storing and archiving. Total e-recording, that is down because of our real estate market with interest rates being up, as warranty deeds aren't being filed, things like that, but 12% of our services in e-recording. Marriages, we're at 5,523. So commissioners, I will tell you is every Saturday I'm there with my staff at Union Town Center, and it's something where I'm sitting there looking at 10 marriages, if not between 10 to 25 each Saturday, where folks come on in and get married right there in the office. The other thing is I shared with you, I started the property fraud program. We have already sent off 585 letters to property owners where we are sitting there seeing quick claim deeds and we're suspecting things. Luckily, as of now, there's been nothing to be turned over to the district attorney, but this has gone over extremely well with our community because I've heard from probably about 1/3 of these property owners via email saying, thank you very much. Going to our clerk to the board, and I think you all would agree with me, Jackie and Bridget are absolutely amazing, but they are absolutely nonstop working. 20% of their work is an agenda item. So far there's been 631 agenda items, 303 resolutions, 142 contracts, 122 liquor licenses, 3,353 Board of Equalization, which was the second step of our property appeals, also doing abatements, and they are still now working on binding arbitration. We are still working with property appeals. So with these 4 departments combined, commissioners, we are bringing in on average $17.5 million per month. Here are the budgetary highlights. Motor Vehicle Department. Taking a look at what the 2023 collected and retained. So we are retaining as a county about 4.26%, but thus far we are at over $185 million of what these motor vehicle offices are generating. Driver's license is 1.5 million, as we are about 39.94% of what the county retains. I'm actually working on the IGA on that, and I'm looking at trying to work with the Department of Revenue to get that increased because we are providing a number of full-time staff. And when you look at the $617,000, we're needing more staff, as I shared with you, when we're sitting here now 5,000 driver's licenses per month. Clerk to the board. Elections, recording. So total collected and retained thus far from January 1st is just shy of $192 million. Here are the budgetary highlights. Since I've come on since January 1, El Paso County Property Fraud Program. working with Experian on the voter rolls, Pocket Talk for elections and motor vehicle departments. And that is, just to refresh your memory, that is where folks were coming into our motor vehicle department. They do not speak very good English, and they were using their kids or they were using their grandkids as interpreters. So we actually got Pocket Talk, where now our customers can actually talk into a device, and it actually translates to basically our employees an understanding, because a lot of time when you're sitting here dealing with that, there's a lot of private information, confidential information being passed back and forth. So that has gone over extremely well. As you know, Tuesday we launched our ballot box surveillance cameras. I put a DMV kiosk in Fountain, Colorado, which is absolutely going over extremely well down there off of Mesa Ridge Parkway. We installed a ballot box at Monument Santa Fe Trailhead. And we are working now on the Elections GIS mapping community site, as I shared Tuesday, that we will launch for the 2024 general election.
Mr. Schleicher, I'm going to add one other huge piece of
Yes, ma'am.
the previous year's budget and staffing, and recognizing that you had a very staff intense process to help with the redistricting efforts. So I just kind of wanted to say thank you for managing your staff in a way that worked within your previous year's budget. But I think that was quite an onerous thing for and staff-heavy requirements for you all to deal with.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'll definitely share that with them. But yeah, I did forget that. The critical needs and justification. So commissioners, there are two things that I'm going to be sitting there asking for. And the first one is my common area maintenance at the Union Town Center. We lease that facility, and our CAM has increased $23,000. So I'm hoping that, you would feel fit to go ahead and allow that to be funded. And in addition to that, commissioners, it's cost of living allowance for all county staff. Not only my staff, but when you sit there and you look at the numbers that the clerk and recorder's office is doing, that is no different from any other county department in the amount of work that they do on behalf of our citizens. So I'm really hopeful you all would consider a cost of living increase for our county staff. And with that being said, are there any questions?
Can I have you go back to the previous slide really quickly? Thank you. Please remind me that Union Town Center Motor Vehicle Office, do we own that or lease the space?
So Madam Chair, we lease that space. The building that we do own is the Powers location.
Okay. And how many years is that lease right now?
We
Or
just
where are we in it?
we just renewed that lease, so we're going to be there for another 10.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Any other questions or comments? Commissioner Geithner.
Thank you. I just wanted to address some of the questions around staff and pay issues. I think for the public especially, I know you know this, but your predecessor was a part of a salary study that we did here and that we have worked very, very hard on to make sure that we are able to retain and keep those fantastic employees, because that's what customer service is all about, as you know, is making sure that we have those. So I know that we went through that process and we made some adjustments based on that. And I believe that, we are continuing to look at that very closely and how, the efforts that we need to make sure that we are able to fairly compensate and make sure that we can provide great service. So I won't get deep in the weeds on that, but I did want to just mention that in the context of this question, that we have been working towards that and making adjustments over the last little while here. So
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair.
Well said. And that's a beautiful segue, I think, to our next presentation. Are there any further questions? Commissioner Vanderwerf.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to thank everything that you all do as well. And, maybe just highlight the elections department and all the work that goes in there to make sure that we have good, open, free, and fair elections in El Paso County. It's an enormous amount of work. And I'd say the clerk and recorder's office has survived some challenges over the last few years that have been very, very difficult. And on a different point, but it has more to do with what the state gets involved in. It is expensive in Colorado now to register vehicles. It's a lot of money, especially if they are newer and you have that the value added tax. And I'll just make the point that, you know, I have a trailer in here in Colorado that I keep in storage maybe 363 days a year. And to use it the other 2 days a year, I have to pay like $40 a year. The thing only cost me $500 to buy it. But in order for me to put it on the roads, I have to buy my trailer over, again, every 10 years just for the little sticker. So, you know, that's not anything that you can do with, but I just want to make the point. It's kind of expensive to have a vehicle in Colorado now anymore.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Commissioner Geithner.
Thank you. I'm sorry I'm going to get a little on my soapbox here, but since that topic was brought up, and truly I know we're trying to keep this to critical needs, but this is all related. It's like my comments earlier about the economy. When we have to be very careful about the way that we adjust and make choices that affect the economy, because we can end up, on these layer upon layers of reactions that cause high cost of living. And I think it's a little bit of what we're seeing here as we talk about the amount of money that it takes to put a car on the road. Well, everybody always just needs a little bit more for what their next project is. But the reality is there's only one way to drive down the cost of living, and that is to stop spending so much money. And that's the government. The government has to make those hard choices. When we look at the fee increases and all those things, we all have to drive on the road. We all expect to have to pay for those roads. But I'm telling you that what I don't expect to have to pay for is electric vehicle infrastructure and all the things that we want and think our state thinks would be nice to have. But at the end of the day, just like we don't pay for gas stations and we let the private market handle that, the more we dip into, the more the government dips into getting into businesses that the government was never intended to do. These are not things that the government should be doing. The more we're going to drive up costs, and there's just no way around that. So that is a part of what we're dealing with here when we talk about salaries and cost of living, is that there's just no way around that. And there's only so much we can do here. We do our very best to keep those costs down here in El Paso County, and I think that that's working, and it shows when we have more people moving into El Paso County and moving out of Denver. That's because we are doing a better job of that here. But as I mentioned, we're talking about that Pikes Peak Promise that we've rolled out, and I mentioned this on KRDO this morning. The reality is we need the state to give us a legal framework that we can work within. We are all, we can make so many decisions as local leaders, but we can't overrule the state, and we need the state to make those better decisions so that we can continue to provide lower cost of living for our citizens and for our employees to be able to thrive in an environment that, again, is getting more and more difficult for them. So thank you for my little bit of a soapbox there.
No, and Commissioner, you are absolutely right. And, lastly, I just want to share with you guys is I'm really looking forward to the upcoming potluck. Historically, it's been in my family for years. I'm going to go ahead and bring our the Schleicher famous Himalayan rabbit stew. So as I was rushing down here, I found him Himalayan on the road.
Okay, with that.
Thank you very much.
I was about to say, thank you, Mr. Schleicher. I was about to say, we do have a recurring theme today as we're looking very closely at how we manage our local budget. It is a recurring theme of the state and national things that really impact how much we can do with what we have and with on top of the requirements. So I am grateful that this board balances that very well and understands the interplay. It's a reality of what we have to do even at the local level right now. So thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you, commissioners.
Mr. Frost. We are ready for human resources.
All right. Good morning. I think it's still morning. Yes. Good morning, Commissioners, Madam Chair. I'm here to present the critical needs for the Human Resources Department. So being a support department, I think it's very important for me to make requests that I think are value added. So the requests I make are tied to the strategic plan. So what does HR do to support the strategic plan? Well, we develop strategies at HR to assess and improve the quality of public services through equipping and engaging employees. We analyze attrition rates within the county and implement strategies to improve employee recruitment and retention. We implement action plans to address critical issues identified by employees in employee surveys and engage in follow-up surveys to assess progress. And the continuation of the countywide strategy to address compensation inequities in response to the recent compensation study. And for Objective 3, we implement external and internal communication strategies. In summary, we in HR do what we do so employees can do what they do. I like to think that we're a very strong backbone to the organization, and we are strategic partners relentlessly trying to improve the employee experience throughout the employee's life cycle. So the budgetary highlights, this essentially is why I'm asking for the things I'm asking for. We already spoke today about the current job climate and that it's created a large increase in requests to HR for recruitment and retention assistance and challenges in navigating the staffing necessary to fulfill those needs. We're posting more jobs, we're receiving more applications, and we have to have the support in the background to be able to do that. Next, developing strategic initiatives to understand employee engagement and satisfaction, which hopefully should result in an increase in retention and morale. And lastly, training and development for all county staff request is increasing from the departments. So the actual critical needs, the first thing I'm asking for is about $33,000 for live class instructors. During COVID, like most employers, of course, training and development was reduced, and now we would like to refocus on our employee development. A big part of that, I believe, is in-person training. There are some training courses that just don't lend themselves to a recorded virtual atmosphere, such as leadership training. And there are trainings that do lend themselves to that, which I'll get into on the next slide. So I value being able to develop employees, and this request is right in line with that. And of course, by further developing our employees, the expected outcome is we'll foster a more dynamic and interactive learning environment, and we'll measure the number of live classes, number of participants, and quality measures from post-class surveys. Developing employees should also result in them providing better services to our residents. Next is recruiter seats. I know this is unusual terminology, but it is the terminology from LinkedIn. LinkedIn has positioned themselves as essentially the go-to for professional job recruitments. So what is happening right now is I only have one recruiter seat to share amongst several recruiters. So when we find people that we want to contact, what we would call sourcing, we want to reach out to them, we want to tell them about an upcoming job or an open job. There's only one person who can do that. So that's created quite a work burden on one person. And so this would allow us to distribute that work amongst my recruiters and thus also improve the amount of people we can reach out to and talk to about coming and joining wonderful El Paso County. So for reference on the importance of just kind of recruitment in general. By the end of the year, we're anticipating having about 900 job postings and 23,000 applications. Next, I am also requesting training video library expansion, $30,000. So in contrast to what I said on the last slide, there are training classes that do lend themselves to virtual recorded environments. We don't have as robust of a library as we would like. We use a training system, and it has come with some default training classes, and those are free, and as the saying goes, you get what you pay for. So we would like to, again, better equip our employees by getting them better training and development. The expected outcome is improvement in the development and retention of quality employees. This can be measured in performance evaluation scores, resident satisfaction, and employee retention rates.
Mr. Frost, can you tell us what the current utilization rate is on this? And are these, like the compulsory versus the, the required versus the optional, and how highly this is being used, and whether you have any metrics on that?
I do not have metrics. Just off the cuff, I know that our mandatory trainings, they get pretty close to 100%. Those virtual ones, candidly, because the system continues to email you until you do take your mandatory classes. The mandatory classes is probably where we're going to concentrate on the video library expansion to make sure that the ones people are attending are of good quality and are actually training and developing the employees.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So the funding request for 2024, of course, that bumps my budget up a little. So the live class instructors, 33,240, the additional recruiter seats, 29,700, and the training video library expansion at 30,000. I truly believe these have an ROI to them. I believe that for the two training parts, again, the more we train and develop our employees, the higher quality service they provide to residents, as well as having a positive impact on our retention. And for the additional recruiter seats, of course, being able to get higher quality candidates in the door for us has an immeasurable impact. Naturally, we want the best employees we can get, and sometimes, or most of the time, we have to go find those people. They might not necessarily be looking. So again, I think my requests do pay for themselves. And there is a compensation request. I know that Nikki addressed this in her presentation as well. But to reaffirm this, we want to invest in our human capital, our employees. So management is recommending 4.5% total compensation on average adjustment. 2.5% of that would be, again, our recommendation going to the COLA increase, and a 2% allocation of personnel budgets for pay for performance. So that 2% would be directly tied to employees' evaluation scores to make a bona fide pay for performance system. This investment will allow the county to compensate near the rate of inflation, as CPI, again, for that Denver market, is currently projected to be approximately 4.7% for 2023. Speaking a little of the impact of compensation, we gave a very fair increase last year, and I'm happy to say that I believe we have very much impacted our retention. So in 2022, the departures by the end of August were 488. This includes any kind of departure, whether it's retirement, resigning, or termination. For 2023, that number is 325, which is 163 fewer positions, or about a 33% difference. So not only compensation, I think compensation is the biggest one. That's what we hear from employees, but all the efforts that we're making as a county, definitely through County Administrator Brett Waters and his support of employees, we're retaining employees better than what we used to. So with that, I'll ask if there are questions.
Commissioner Vanderwerf.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I don't know if we have a competition here between Commissioner Geithner and I, and who can raise our hand first to ask a question, but first of all, again, I always a thank you for what you're doing. This is really awesome. And I know we say it, at budget hearings, but I think I certainly am speaking for myself, but I think it might be a common statement from all the commissioners. The most important asset we have in El Paso County is the people that we've got. They're the ones that deliver the goods, the services. They are essential, and we have such an amazing team, and I'm really, really proud of them. So I am really glad that the staff here is recommending to the board, this cost of living increase, and that you're talking about the nuances about, where that will go. I am thrilled to hear about the reduction in people transitioning out of the county for different and various reasons. And I do recall at one point I had tried to figure out what would be considered the norm for a public agency versus maybe a private agency. And I'm not sure I could really find a consensus on the internet, but it sounded to me like turnover on the private side is actually well above 10% annually. I thought that was interesting. And that public agency turnover is generally lower. And maybe that was about 10 or 9% seemed to be kind of the number that I settled on, maybe 9%. And when you say we've got about 300 so far this year, that's about 10% right now, which means we'll be a little over 10% by the end of the year. So we might still, I'd be interested in your assessment. Are we still a little bit over what a public agency typically would find, even though we have made improvements, or are we kind of more into the norm?
That's a great question, Commissioner. Thank you. You're right in that the numbers depend on who you're getting your information from. I do see in the private sector, we're looking at over 20% attrition. For small governmental agencies, we're seeing about 18%. I always caution of comparing ourselves to other entities because they might not have the same departments, they might not be the same size, and it can become an apples and oranges comparison. I like to compare ourselves to ourselves, and if we're making improvements over the year. But I would say we're falling right in line with, from the information I've received and researched, we're right in line with what the attrition rate should be for a small government agency.
Okay, great. Thank you. I appreciate that. And so to your point, maybe the best measure is how did we compare in previous years? Are we getting better? That's a good way to calculate it. Thank you.
Getting better.
Commissioner Geithner.
Thank you. I appreciate all your thoughtful answers there. But I did have one, when we're looking at that number, do you have a ballpark? I won't hold you to the exact number here, but when we talk about the cost of turnover, do you have a ballpark in what you think the savings are for the retention that we are now seeing in comparison to previously?
I would have to get all the salaries of potential employees we've saved, but the Society for Human Resource Management and other organizations like that would say for a professional position, you could be saving the employee salary Potentially, if you lose we'll just say $70,000 employee, it could cost you $70,000 to fill that position in various cost and bringing that person up to speed, because generally employees take about 6 months before they're comfortable in their roles. So that's a lot of lost, when we lose a person, that's a lot of lost productivity, a lot of lost knowledge. There's a recruitment cost to that. There's probably a good 20 odd things that directly and indirectly cause cost when someone leaves. So when we're talking a significant number, like what did I say, 160 something. I mean, when we think about if that's the salary or even half of the salary that we've saved in direct and indirect cost, that's quite a meaningful lump sum.
Thank you. I think, we talk a lot about how important retention is and what the return on investment is, both monetarily, but also in quality service to our residents. And I just really appreciate you trying to get down to some quantifying of that for the public as we talk about how important that is, and really share with them transparently how important this is. Thank you.
Any further questions or comments at this time? Excellent. Thank you for the leadership and the systemization and analysis of what you've done with the department in the last just over a year since you've been here. I'm grateful to have real data to make decisions off of. So appreciate that once again. Okay. I believe that concludes our budget presentation scheduled for the day. Ms. Simmons, would you like to wrap us up with a couple comments?
Commissioners, I appreciate your time today. I also appreciate if we have any citizens who've been watching. We invite public comment at all of these hearings and public comment on any presentation or any need. And so at our next meeting, which is on Tuesday, we will hear from the rest of the departments and offices. You'll hear from your treasurer's office, the sheriff, our district attorney, our coroner, the county attorney, and you'll also hear from our citizens outreach group, which has been tasked with overseeing or hearing about the budget, as well as our public safety tax and the uses for that. So we'll hear all of those presentations on Tuesday. And if there's any additional questions, feel free to reach out to me. But I appreciate your time.
Thank you. And thank you very much to you and your staff for preparing this. We have our beloved budget books that we reference again all year as we move through this process. So thank you to those responsible for putting that together.
And I will add one more thing to that. All of that is available online. So if any citizen or anybody at all wants to go in and see these presentations, all of them will be available online on the county's budget website. And so trying to be as transparent as possible. And also our communications office will eventually, well, not eventually, it sounds like a while, but shortly be able to clip today's presentations, and each of these sessions will be available to watch as well if people weren't able to watch and live stream it.
Excellent. Thank you. Any further questions? Commissioner Geithner.
So I think, thank you, Madam Chair. We are making up for a lack of comments this morning, or at least I am on the comments throughout this process. But I do wanted to say thank you. I want to say publicly, this I think is the best set of presentations that I've seen since being a commissioner. Just the attention to detail, to metrics, all of those things. And so I know that your team has worked incredibly hard on this, but I have to also absolutely thank our county administrator, Brett Waters, because I know that this process has continued to improve under his leadership. So thank you very much for truly moving the county in an excellent direction for citizens.
Our county administrator is very, very involved in every single step of the budget process. So very much appreciated.
Thank you. All right. With that, because this is also part of a public hearing, I just want to make sure that there's no one here wishing to speak on anything presented today in this item number. Okay, and none online. Okay, Thank you. Item number 9.
Item number 9 is the addendum, and there is no addendum today.
Item 10.
Item number 10 is the executive session, and there is no request for an executive session.
We are adjourned.